Do most of your staff meetings feel like they could have been handled in an email? Today, we're sharing 3 tips for better staff meetings on the Church Revitalization Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast, brought to you by the Malphurs Group team, where each week we tackle important, actionable topics to help churches thrive. And now, here's your hosts, Scott Ball and AJ Matthew.
Welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast. My name is Scott Ball, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host AJ Matthew. And today we are brought to you by Faith Street. Faith Street is an iOS and Android app that brings congregations together. It strengthens people's commitment to the church and each other. It builds community by prompting prayer and mindfulness, generosity, reflection, fellowship, and teaching as daily practices. Help your people live life together, rally in prayer, participate more consistently, mature spiritually, and give generously. If you're interested in checking out this resource, go to faithstreet.com/Malphurs. Church Revitalization Podcast listeners receive 20% off the service. So that's Faith Street, faithstreet.com/Malphurs, MALPHURS. AJ, have you ever been to a meeting that at the end of it, you thought, this could have been an email?
Most of the time, whenever you ring me up on Zoom, Scott, yes.
Oh,
zing!
To the heart. That's good. That's funny. Sometimes I just want to chat, AJ. I just want to have a conversation.
I appreciate the relationship, though, too.
In all seriousness, how many times have you been to a meeting that you felt like at the end, this could have just been an email?
Yeah.
I don't think this is a uniquely church problem, but it is a problem that is found in the church.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's just the rundown, right? It's the report rundown. Hey, what's been going on? Okay. All right. Very good. Next. I mean, yeah, that's it. That's the script for those meetings. Okay, good. Right. Next. So, yeah.
So how can we break free from that? That's what we want to talk about today on our podcast. We've got 3 tips that are going to help you break free from feeling like this could have been an email.
And this is going to be a quick episode, staying in the focus of this. If it doesn't need to be a long meeting, don't make it a long meeting. Right. So here you go.
That's
3 quick tips. Number 1, hold accountable for assimilation. So I don't know, this week, maybe we'll create a podcast episode for 3 tips for assimilation. And this will be number 1 there as well. But for your staff meeting, this is going to get you out of maybe the weekly grind and a little bit bigger picture focus. So are we managing guests and relationships to bring people deeper into biblical community and help them grow in their faith? This should be a concern of the staff, don't you think, Scott?
Yeah, and the biggest gap that I see in my experience with churches is that people see this as little pocket problems. Like it's the secretary's job to enter in a connect card into the database. It's the pastor's job to send an email, or it's this volunteer group's responsibility to do the phone calls or whatever. So they see it as these little siloed projects versus seeing it as everyone's problem. If you had a guest who visited, there's odds are someone on staff interacted with that person at some level. And so to have a conversation about every new connect card that comes in might give you some insight into that person or their background. So did you get their information initially because they checked in 2 kids and so they were new that way? Or it was a young couple that has no kids, or it was an old couple that has grown up kids, but the pastor talked to them after the service or whatever. I mean, you never know where those little tidbits of information are going to come from. So you want to make it a habit to every week or every time you have staff meeting to talk about guests, newcomers, and what's next in their follow-up process, and hold people accountable to that. The number of times I've heard, oh yeah, I need to follow up with that person. I'll give them a call today. And then there's never any accountability to, did they actually do that? This is where technology obviously can serve you. So if you have, a church management software that like Planning Center that has workflows built in so that you can track where someone is at in the process, that's good. So you would want to reference that during your staff meeting. But if you don't have that in place, then you're going to need to rely on some good old fashioned conversation and making sure that you're following through on those things.
Yeah.
So assimilation needs to be everyone's problem collectively.
That's that would be a great addition to a staff meeting that would accomplish something that would be difficult if you weren't all together. Have a conversation about
a lot of cross emails and
it's
wouldn't work
going to
very
get
well.
people on the radar. You could review the security footage and go, that's them. That's who I'm talking about.
That would be weird, but certainly a conversation would be good.
All right. Hold accountable for assimilation is that one. Number 2, focus on discipleship pathway. So the church should have a clearly defined process for people, building off of number 1, assimilating into the body, and then progressing in their faith deeper and participating in the ministries of your church that you have intentionally developed to help them mature. So focusing on your discipleship pathway in your staff meetings is going to have the team work more as a team, because they're all going to be focusing probably in different areas of your pathway, from maybe a gather step into a community building step and a serve step, and hopefully a step in which people are sharing their faith and they're out doing some evangelistic efforts. And so focusing on that pathway, how are we doing in these areas? How are people progressing through? Have we developed bottlenecks anywhere, or is there some kind of an issue that needs to be addressed? That's really going to help staff meetings flow in the way in which you want your people to flow from one step to the next. So this is a great staff team meeting structure.
Yeah. So this is a big shift. Most staff meetings are simply, it's like you said, just the report rundown, right? Where you go, okay, what's going on in worship ministry? Here's what's going on in children's ministry, what's going on in small groups, what's going on with seniors, whatever. And it's just individual reports from different staff that oversee different ministries. And that's fine, but you could have gotten that in an email. If you reorient the staff meeting around the discipleship pathway, it demands collaboration, because there's overlap between ministry areas when you think of it through the lens of a step in a discipleship pathway. So if we're thinking about, obviously more ministries are going to have more focus in particular steps, but for example, like you were talking about in the gather step, okay, or a worship step, whatever you're calling it, that's going to involve that creative arts or worship ministry. It's also going to involve the preaching ministry. It's also going to involve, the ushers and greeters. It's going to involve, there's going to be some cross collaboration between things. And so if you say, we're going to talk about this step first, and then we're going to talk about this step next, the grow step or whatever you call it. This is where what's happening in the senior citizens ministry, and what's happening in the regular small groups and women's, and how are these things sort of cross-functional communication happening. So if you can reorient the staff meeting around your discipleship process, then like you said, AJ, it helps to reframe how you're thinking about how the church operates, in terms of, we don't just exist to run these programs. Our church exists to achieve this process, to effectuate this process in people. And so everything we're doing then is in service of discipleship, not the other way around. Discipleship is in service of our ministry area. So this is a way to get away from meetings that could be emails, because it's not just reports, it's collaboration around discipleship.
Yeah, there you go. We're not hitting pause. We're moving on. Number 3, last point, create a weekly strategic focus. And again, a lot of times we're stuck in the Sunday to Sunday thing. And the most important thing is just making sure that I've got the music lined up for next Sunday, making sure that we've got the seats arranged because maybe we're doing something different, or this or that. All the same things that are happening over and over is like the most important thing. It's like all my job is. So establish a new, what's the most important thing outside of the norm? How are we going to keep everybody still thinking about big picture perspective and having something, a bigger project, a bigger initiative, something that takes longer time to plan and execute? Where are we on that? And what's the most important thing that needs to happen now? Maybe one particular week, maybe there is some big event coming up. We've got several last minute details we've got to make sure are right for this like one-off thing. That probably is the most important thing that week. But it's not the most important thing every week.
That's right.
So that's
sometimes
where the focus change needs to be.
Yeah, well said. Sometimes that weekly strategic focus is project oriented. Sometimes it's more philosophical. So I'm having an opportunity right now. I'm helping a particular staff in a transitional season, and in our last staff meeting, this weekly strategic focus I gave them was to think. I gave them 3 questions. One of which was, what are the things that only I can do? I was having a chance to evaluate kind of where everyone's at, and I was realizing that there's a lot of things that they're doing that probably could be passed off to other people. And so while they still got to get done the things they need to get done that week, I wanted them to spend some time in the week thinking, all right, what are the things that only I can do, so that will help them then to think about what are the things I could pass off and delegate and who ought to do that. So it's just helping your staff to think not just about what do I need to get done on a task list, but how can I be more effective in my role as a leader in the church and as a leader in general. And so whoever's leading the meeting ought to take some time before the meeting to think through, how can I give some strategic focus to the team so that they can be better and serve better. So I think that these 3 tips, AJ, if you were to do them, would drastically improve the quality of your staff meetings. Number one, focus on assimilation. Make sure it's everyone's problem. It can't just be who's getting the postcards mailed out's problem or who's collecting the Connect cards. But different folks may have had interactions with these people, and they are people that you're trying to shepherd. So make assimilation everyone's problem. 2, reorient the flow of your meetings, not around ministry reports, but around the discipleship pathway process. The reports will happen as a natural byproduct of focusing around the process. But in a way that will encourage collaboration and not just giving of information. And then finally, create a weekly strategic focus. It could be project oriented, or it could be something higher minded, but it's something that's going to help break your team free of that week to week, Sunday to Sunday grind, and thinking about higher level leadership things that can help them grow and succeed in their ministry. So those 3 things, if you do them, you're going to have a better staff meeting.
Hey, this pairs up nicely with last week's episode. If you didn't check out last week on episode 95, when we talked about how to help your church board function at a better and higher and more productive level, go check that out. Because we talked last week about things that they shouldn't be doing, and it's a lot of in the detail, weedy, staff-oriented things. And now this week is a nice complement to that on how can we handle our staff meetings to help our staff focus on what's the most important in their role and level in the organization. And so this is it's a great duo of episodes. So go back and check out episode 95 if you haven't already. And thanks for tuning in this week. There's a third aspect to this as well, to keep the entire congregation focused on what's most important. And that is a tool that would be really helpful called the app Faith Street. You can go check it out at faithstreet.com to get more information about that. It's available for Android and iOS, and it's going to help your congregation stay focused on what you need them to stay focused on. And that's their personal walk with Jesus and building community with one another as the body of Christ. And so we got staff here in episode 96. We've got the board back in episode 95, and the Faith Street app might be a tool that's really helpful for your church. You can get 20% off if you go to faithstreet.com/Malphurs, MALPHURS. I got that right.
You can.
And that's right. That'll be a great thing to do. Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can check out today's article that Scott wrote on malphursgroup.com/96, because this is episode 96. And if you head on over to YouTube and search Malphurs Group over there, we've got a couple of questions that you can have for discussion with your staff down in the video description. And you can see
this might be a great episode to watch to create a weekly strategic focus. How can we improve our staff meetings? Let's watch this pretty quick episode and have a discussion. So if you're listening to the podcast, go on YouTube, subscribe there, hit that notification bell, ding, 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 and so you'll never miss an episode. But one of the things that we are doing, we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, but we've added team discussion questions. The only place you can get those is in the description below the YouTube video, because we thought these would be great resources for you to watch with your team, with your board or with your staff or whatever. So please check it out. Go to youtube.com/the Malphurs Group, and you'll see our videos there. We started this, I guess, 3 episodes now where we've started adding team discussion guides. Check those out. It's a great resource to help develop your team.
Thanks for being with us. Hope you and your ministry are blessed, and we'll see you next time.